seed of ignorance and ignorance.
Yeah.
Is it not realizing emptiness? Is it the same thing?
Yeah. So ignorance is just, in general, is just not confused about something.
Yeah.
In general. Here, when we talk about nature of reality, the ignorance is confused about how things exist. And we can be confused in a number of ways. We can be confused about the fact that things are changing moment by moment. That's one way. We can be confused and think there's an autonomous self here. That's another way. Or we can be confused and think there's an independent objective world, an independent me. So they are three different ways of being confused. In Mahayana, the emptiness is to overcome the confusion that there is an independent me, independent world. So that's the ignorance we're talking about overcoming here by realizing emptiness. And the difference between ignorance and seed of ignorance is the actual manifest grasping onto that. Seed of ignorance is simply the habit of doing that.
So my question is, when if the teacher or the person has reached the realization of the emptiness, what's preventing him from reaching nirvana and
Oh,
enlightenment?
okay,
Because
okay, yeah.
okay, it's
Okay, yeah, yeah. So,
attachments are not
yeah.
there.
Okay. One direct realization of emptiness is not strong enough to wipe out all ignorance. So we need to come to realize emptiness directly in meditation again and again and again and again, many, many, many times, to keep slowly wiping out more and more ignorance, more mental affliction. So it's not a one-time thing and then everything's fixed. We have to keep doing that many times. And so what we find in the spiritual path, when it's mapped out, there are these stages that we go through in terms particularly of our emptiness experience and how we move from one level to the next. So there is a whole process, even after we realize it directly the first time, there's still a whole process we have to go through to finally get rid of all the ignorance and mental afflictions and achieve nirvana. And then what we need to do further to go on to enlightenment. So that's a whole... in fact, I'm not really going to talk about it in this, but you've been given a handout about it. So maybe we can give just briefly now a few points on that. And that is this Mahayana path chart that you have. So maybe I can mention a few things for that right now. So what we see here, this is the Mahayana path, and it's broken into 5 stages called the 5 paths. They're called accumulation, preparation, seeing, meditation, no more learning. So these are sort of the 5 stages we go through. And if we look at right at the beginning there, and we look underneath the chart, we see number 2. It says uncontrived renunciation bodhicitta, which means when we've developed this aspiration of bodhicitta, we enter the Mahayana path. But then we need to practice, particularly this wisdom of emptiness. So on the first 2 stages, accumulation and preparation, we haven't yet come to a direct realization of emptiness. We are having an experience of emptiness in meditation, but it's not direct yet. So it's not very powerful. It's only powerful enough to sort of keep the lid on the mental afflictions a little bit. Whereas when we get to what's called seeing here, the 3rd stage, then we now come to the point of having a direct realization of emptiness, the first time. And that now is strong enough to start to wipe out some ignorance, but only a fairly superficial level of ignorance. Then on the 4th stage, what's called path of meditation, we see it divided up into these 9 stages. And during that stage, we continually are realizing emptiness directly, wiping out more ignorance. And then if we get to what's called the 7th ground down here, you see number 9, it says number 9, nirvana. So by that stage, we've wiped out all ignorance and all mental afflictions, and we've actually achieved nirvana. But our goal is enlightenment, so that's sort of like a byproduct. There's still some work to do. And the work to do is that we have what's called these cognitive obscurations. You know, before I said that when we look out on the world, everything appears to exist independent of us. But we said that actually, according to this view, things are not existing like that. Then we ask the question, well, if that's not how things exist, why are they appearing to exist like that to us? What's the reason? The reason is our ignorance pollutes our mind. It stains our mind. And these stains of ignorance, which are like a filter, is what's causing this mistaken dualistic appearance in the first place. That is very difficult to get rid of. That's what we get rid of over those last 3 stages. That we finally manage to get rid of these subtle stains in our mind, and then when we achieve enlightenment, then things don't appear to us in this mistaken way. So someone who's enlightened, things to them do not appear to exist independent of them. What that really means for us is unimaginable, because we've never had that experience. But that's what we need to get rid of to move from nirvana to enlightenment, these subtle stains in our mind. Very difficult to get rid of. So that's the Mahayana path, very briefly.
Okay. This, you will find people that say that they go to nirvana. How you can prove this?
How can you?
How can if you meet a person that says that you reach nirvana?
Right. Okay. If you meet people who in public say they've achieved nirvana, enlightenment, very careful. There's a very high probability they're completely delusional. It could be possible that they have done it, but very unlikely. Because generally one of the qualities that we develop to a large degree as we progress is humility, to be very humble. So if someone in public is boasting about how far they've got, be very careful. It's a sure sign their ego has hijacked them, and now they've just become a big spiritual ego, and they're very dangerous people. So be very careful. That's why we need to check. Because there are many people out there claiming to have done all sorts of things and wanting disciples, but when you look, they're not really having much of this.
I have 2 more questions.
Yeah.
One is on this Mahayana path.
Mm-hmm.
It's realizing emptiness of the teacher. Is it the first time you're just realizing it from like the path of seeing?
That's the first time they've directly realized it, yes.
Okay. And the other question that I had is that you said that before you can have the experience of emptiness without really realizing it.
Right.
So are we realizing it through studying or through meditation?
Yeah. I'm going to talk about that in the next session in another context, but I'll talk about that how to progress in there. So that'll be answered in the next session.
I don't know if this is a respectable question. When you say this, and I'm thinking about like a lot of time ago and about modern time, I'm thinking about is this something I can do out of Google when I finish here during my spare time? Or are we talking about
Do what out of Google?
do these things during my spare time with my limited online resources, or is this something that's a path for someone who's searching mastery?
Yeah. If you want to achieve mastery in any field, music, any high-level skill field, can you do it in your spare time? In any field. Can you become a concert pianist in your spare time? Can you become anything in your spare time? Mastery.
Yeah, I don't think I'm searching for mastery. I'm not searching for this.
Okay,
so
but
I'm asking what.
Yeah.
in my spare time,
Yeah, right.
like leisure
So
Buddhism.
my answer is that we can apply the same thinking to anything in our life. Yes, we can do anything in our spare time. We can learn piano in spare time. We can learn some high-level skill in our spare time, and we may become okay at it. But will we ever become a master? No, because actually modern studies have shown that in any high-level skill, you need 5,000 to 10,000 hours of practice to become master at it. Any field, across the board, 5,000 to 10,000 hours. So if we're not willing to commit 5,000 to 10,000 hours, we will not become the master in anything. Concert pianist, anything, technical skill, any field. So I think it could be something similar here. If in our spare time we want to do a bit of meditation and reading, will that be helpful? Absolutely. Will it improve our life? Absolutely. Will it make us a master in...
No, that's not what I'm searching.
Right, so then it's okay. If you just want to do a little bit in the spare time, yes, you can use Google and all these other things, so you can use that in a good way to do that. But if we're expecting that we can achieve enlightenment in our spare time, that would be like expecting to become a concert pianist by doing 20 minutes of practice each day. I mean, it's just not going to happen. But doing 20 or 30 minutes practice each day, can we become okay and play some nice tunes? For sure. Absolutely. So same as in everything else in life. So yes, we can do these sorts of things in spare time, but we shouldn't have some unrealistic expectation that we're going to realize emptiness directly in our spare time, because it won't happen. Just like it won't happen that we'll become a concert pianist in our spare time. So as long as we understand that, then that's fine. That's fine.
This is Mahayana, so at first I thought that realizing emptiness, it's enough to have indirect, but you mentioned that it should be direct emptiness, so what's the difference between 3 and 6?
3 is mainly talking about this realizing no autonomous self. And the difference between this and emptiness, I'm going to try to explain tomorrow morning when we're going to spend a whole session or more looking at the Vipassana practice. So this is the no autonomous self, and this is nothing existing independently.
Question here from someone: what is the difference between independent me or world and autonomous self?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try to answer tomorrow morning when we talk about the Vipassana practice. So I'll attempt to answer that tomorrow morning.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for morning tea break. So let's take a break, come back at 10:45, and then we'll continue on to the next topic in the Lam Rim.